Welcome back to BT here on a Tuesday morning. We're talking politics right now south of the border because the U.S. election is just 1 week away. And we're going to look at some of the hot button issues right now and bring in Josh Green, a professor of political science in the San Francisco Bay Area. Josh, welcome to BT.
Thanks for having me.
So lots to talk about. Let's get right to it right now. First of all, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, Trump's pick for the Supreme Court. She has been confirmed. Deeply divided Senate. How will her new position complicate perhaps the upcoming election?
Well, of course, she's going to be hearing a lot of cases that had to do with the election, including which mail-in ballots get counted, which ones don't. There's also a very important case, November 30th, coming up on the census. That's the count of all Americans that decides where political power goes in the next 10 years. So these are huge cases. I think Democrats are wondering, is she going to be recused or is she not going to be recused, or recuse herself, I should say, from these cases? And so we'll just have to see how it goes.
And the polls seem to suggest that Biden has the lead here. What does Trump need to do? It's kind of a loaded question, but to get reelected, what are the kind of things that he needs to pull off?
Yeah, quite a bit, actually. Both campaigns right now have, with a week to go, the persuasion is over. Now is the time when they're deciding where they're going to put their precious few resources, people and money. And they're looking at at a handful of states, really. Just Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin are the two northern states that are key. I think for Trump, though, Florida, you should be looking at Florida as a state that's kind of a must-win for him. It's his newly adopted state. He has a residence there. And it's a huge number of what we call electoral votes, which are what actually decides the election. So he needs to win Florida to have a path to victory.
Okay, I want to touch on the Electoral College in a second, but let's talk Democrats. What's Joe Biden's strategy here with the week left? Because he has not been doing the kind of rallies. It's been sort of toned down in terms of campaigning. So what does Joe Biden do with a week left before the election?
Well, again, right now his team is figuring out where do we put our energy and our resources. It's those three states I mentioned, but I think for him, a key state is Pennsylvania. He spent a lot of his childhood there. He's been campaigning really hard there. I think the Democrats really want that state. It was a razor-thin margin in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost it, and so they want that state back, and that's kind of his key to victory for the election.
Now, U.S. elections are a complex process. Some people sort of scratch their heads with respect to trying to understand how it all works. What role does the Electoral College play with respect to your country's upcoming election?
It's a huge role, and this happens every 4 years. There's a quirk in our Constitution that calls for the presidential election to actually not be decided by who gets the most votes on a national basis. So we should remind everyone of that. The Electoral College involves bundles of votes, electoral votes, 538 to be exact, that are weighted by state. And the state, gives its electors based on a winner-take-all system of who wins in that particular state. So that's why we're talking about a handful of states that matter in the presidential election. My home state, California, for example, is really not a factor, even though it's the most populous state in the union, because of the Electoral College, because we know that it will go for the Democrats. And so the campaigns aren't really paying any attention to it. So it's always, every 4 years, you have a situation where you could have the loser of the complete vote for on the national basis winning the Electoral College. That's what happened in 2016 with Trump. It happened in 2000, even most recently with Al Gore.
And just before we let you go, Josh, why is the who controls the Senate essentially more important than who's actually president?
Yeah, that's something I think everyone should be watching. The Democrats right now are in the minority in the Senate. There are two houses in Congress, the House and the Senate. The Democrats have the House, but without getting the Senate, and they will need to flip at least 4 Senate seats to get 50, which is there's 100 seats in the Senate. If they can get 50, then Joe Biden has a way to get his legislation through, to get his agenda through, to get everything he's talking about through. If they do not flip those seats, we could have a very contentious next 4 years between Biden and the Republican Party.
All right, Josh, thanks for making sense of it, and we'll check in with you as things progress and we get closer to the election and perhaps after that as well. You have a great day.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that's Josh Green, professor of political science, and we'll have much more BT to